Jonathan Hickman and Valerio Schiti kick off another huge chapter in the X-Men saga as Moira McTaggart tells Xavier and Magneto that Destiny needs to be dealt with permanently, but Mystique has other plans for her wife that include destroying everything the mutants have built. Jonathan Hickman begins what has turned out to be his last foray into the amazing status quo shift he has built for the mutants over the past 3 years, kicking off this chapter by bringing back Moira McTaggart to answer some questions regarding Nimrod and Destiny's roles in mutants' probable destruction. I found the issue quite bittersweet since it is the end of Hickman's run and he's just been an absolute powerhouse when it comes to merging classic X-Men concepts with newer, fresher and unique ideas, all of which have been playing out over these last couple of years really well and have been shown throughout this issue. This issue really was kind of a refresh of what we already know, but I didn't mind it for 2 reasons. A, it's been a while since we picked up this story, so it's great to get everyone caught up on it since it's been basically since the beginning of House of X and Power of X that we have seen any of this actually touched on properly. And B, the concepts he's talking about, from Nimrod to the mutant resurrections being tampered with, are so damn interesting that getting to explore them more is totally welcome. It's the perfect opposite to the Fear State Batman event happening right now, which is a really thin event when it comes to its concepts, yet loves reiterating them over and over again for 4 issues straight, no less. I'm really looking forward to where he goes with this final arc, thanks to those really juicy final pages and the cliffhanger that just makes me root for Mystique that much harder. Valerio Schiti joins Hickman on his final tour of the X-Men universe with some brilliant, colourful pages that focus on character interactions, seeing as there was no real action in the book. Valerio uses lighting and colour really well here, especially in the pages of Bishop getting crowned were amazing and had this really angelic sort of Renaissance painting feel to them, and it really popped off the page and was just fantastic to look at. Inferno issue 1 was a fantastic, if bittersweet, beginning of the end for Jonathan Hickman's tenure with the mutants, reiterating some of his awesome concepts that we haven't seen since the opening of House of X and Power of X a few years ago, and building on them in really exciting ways. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10. Inferno issue 1 sees new mutants born under the watchful eye of the Cerebro-wearing Emma Frost, who channels Xavier's own words, calling her X-Men to her. Sometime later at the Orchis Forge, the X-Men infiltrate the base, but they are attacked by Nimrod, who easily takes down Domino and Kid Omega with cluster bombs and psionic shields which disintegrate the mutants. Wolverine slices through the villain's body, but another Nimrod clone merely melts Wolverine down to his adamantium skeleton, ripping him apart. Dr. Devo stops the video, having seen enough, knowing that this is the 16th assassination attempt, and the mutants appear to be terrified of Dr. Gregor's husband. Gregor knows Nimrod isn't her husband anymore, as Devo wants to know what they have learned during these attacks. Gregor says that the attacks are of 2 categories, one long-range assault and a brood infection which was directed their way, but the mutants who always come are the same. Devo looks over the skeletons of Wolverine they have captured, as Gregor says that they are copies or clones made with a new power, and whatever it is, they are getting better at responding to it and evolving to it. She knows that since the mutants keep doing the same thing, they must not know what happens after they get there, and they can't remember. The Mega Sentinel knows that someone remembers, and it's why they keep coming. At some other time, Moira's lab celebrates the cure for mutants when they are rudely interrupted by Mystique and Destiny and their X-Men team, who know Moira is a mutant who is invisible to other mutants, thinking it's a defense mechanism. Destiny introduces herself to Moira, knowing it's tricky to see her future thanks to her power of reincarnation, but Moira doesn't care, just wanting them to get it over with and kill her. Mystique doesn't want to do that just yet, since Destiny has a word for her. Destiny knows she is wasting her knowledge trying to kill her own kind, but Moira knows it's a disease and she is trying to cure anyone who wants it. Destiny says that humans will come for her and chain her up and make her their own and use her knowledge to eliminate an entire race, having seen the potential of her works but not caring for them. Destiny warns that if she keeps doing this evil work after being reincarnated, Destiny will just find her again and again, and she can see her coming if Moira tries to kill her. She demands Moira change or die, but Mystique thinks the quiet woman still is on the fence and needs more encouragement. Destiny tells Moira that she will die, and she has about 10 or 11 lives left. She reveals if Moira is killed as a child, before her powers can manifest, she will not be reincarnated. Moira thinks that this is a trick, not believing the woman, but Destiny wonders how a scientist could prove something like this, knowing that she would have to test and kill herself to see. Moira plans to test it out in her next life, so Destiny asks if she will help her people. Moira still doesn't know, telling Mystique that she's not lying since she knows they'll kill her anyway, since they are all monsters. Destiny knows they might be monsters and she sleeps soundly because of it, but what keeps her up is what Moira can do with her curious mind, since she's seen it. Raven wonders how they will make Moira's newfound conviction stick, thinking the answer is fear. Destiny wants to put it to the test, getting Pyro to burn Moira alive slowly so she can feel what failing to change is like. Moira's third life ends, and soon on her 10th life, the scientist continues looking into Project Cure as S.H.I.E.L.D. and Orchis spy on her when a gateway is activated, with one of the agents calling it into his boss. Dr. Smythe orders his men to put the info up on the board for him, and Smythe finds the new gateway interesting since it was mapped 2 months ago, and while it was a run-of-the-mill Krakoan gateway, over the last few days, after their latest software update, there have been inconsistencies with their resonance of the gate. Dr. Jones thinks it's just a glitch in the update, wanting to continue to document it, but Smythe decides to do more digging, contacting the creator of the update, Horticulture, who know that their systems are perfectly fine. Smythe says that when they agreed to pay the women for their gateway knowledge base, there was an expectation that it would work. The elderly Edith butts into the conversation, surprised that Augusta is talking with a gorilla. The women bicker as Smythe reminds the elderly women that he cares not for their age, only their code, and it's important to not be wrong. The women look over the data, finding the mutants to be very clever since it's not one gateway they are looking at, it's 2 that are in the building. Smythe quickly orders his men in Paris into a full blanket support, wanting them to keep an eye on the building as inside the mutant house, X-Force keep track of Orchis agents watching over them. At Moira's no place in Krakoa, the woman returns to find Xavier and Eric waiting for her, asking them how their work of survival goes. Eric says it's not going well, with the men filling Moira in on another failed attempt at the Orchis Forge. Moira knows that this failure isn't a mutant one like Eric thinks, it's his and Xavier's alone, since he and Charles said that they would be different this time, and they made it clear how unimportant her perspective was. Xavier calls her the most important person in the world and thinks that they need to admit a few things to themselves, first of which is that NIMROD is an inevitability. He wonders that since it is, has Moira tried embracing the machines? Moira knows that they don't want to hear what she has to say regarding this, but Xavier can sense her anger, so Moira says that she's been angry because they refuse to listen to her. The men ask if being allies with the machines ever worked, but Moira knows that's like someone trying to befriend death or trust cancer, and she is clear about 2 things that they need to fear: the emergence of living machines and a woman who is dead and who must not be brought back. Yet somehow NIMROD is activated and Destiny is alive, and the men have managed to combine them both into 3 failures. Moira suddenly realizes that the men are having her followed since they were waiting for her just as she came back, but Xavier says they aren't, and Eric reveals that Forge made a techno-organic transmission tech that pings whenever she uses a gate, and it tells them her exact location at all times. Moira demands to know when they infected her with that, learning it was before the first ever meeting of the council, and it was in her tea. The woman is enraged that they would do this, but Xavier knows it's for her own protection. Moira asks why they are there, so the men merely tell her that they need to know what to do. Moira demands they listen to her then, since she is done being ignored. Moira says that Orchis is only a temporary master of NIMROD and the clock is running in years, so they have some time to spread out and execute a long-term survival plan, but it only works if they get stronger and not be pulled apart, which is what is happening thanks to Destiny, and she needs to be erased from the resurrection protocols along with Mystique as well. Xavier knows it'll be a tricky proposition, but Moira tells him to sell it as a season of change to the council. Since this needs to happen, Magneto heads to his home as Moira knows that they need to seize the means of resurrection and the 5 cannot be controlled, but the mechanisms which process the beginning and the endings can be, so the control of the cradles is paramount. Magneto retrieves a Cerebro as Xavier retrieves the remains of Destiny's DNA from Sinister so he can destroy it, and the future of their nation will be ensured. Xavier agrees to do all this, but Moira tells him not to lie to her since this is the one thing she truly fears and will not accept Destiny breathing Krakoan air, demanding that she be burned from existence. Elsewhere at the home of Cypher, the mutant gets up, kissing his wife Bay goodbye as he heads out to work, meeting with Krakoa and his friends to talk about how things on their island are going. Storm meanwhile feels a change in the air, surprised at Cyclops' request, but the council will honour it. Scott says that he cannot be an X-Man out in the world and still protector of their great mutant experiment, and it demands a more attentive eye than his. Exodus wonders if he, Psylocke, Magik, and Bishop don't just quit altogether, since the world doesn't need half-hearted efforts from them. Cyclops says that if they wish to test him, they can, but he's been through the wars and is still standing. Xavier wonders if this has to happen right now, but Scott says that it is, and he will still be a captain for his people, but he can't be anything more. He nominates Bishop to take up his role as commander, so Storm crowns him, as Emma asks if Scott just thought the council would not get a say in this. Psylocke doesn't remember asking for her permission, and Magik says they were also thinking of having Psylocke replace Gorgon, so they could fight or just make it happen. Emma stays quiet as Nightcrawler congratulates Bishop on his promotion, having all the faith in him in the world, and Bishop knows he won't fail, as Cyclops wants to honour this with the captain's tradition, where the new commander buys everyone drinks. But Bishop knows that that wasn't a tradition until just now, and Scott knows that they need to discuss this, and they know that the more they drink, the more clarity they'll have on the situation. The mutants all head off to fulfill their new tradition, as later at the Quiet Council, Xavier and Eric broach the subject of a changing of the guard. Nightcrawler wonders if they are asking if they think someone should join them or someone should step down, and Eric knows that replacements are needed immediately, but they need to have a retirement plan in place, and he has considered leaving himself, but he will instead follow his heart. Xavier knows that none of this has to happen today, and he'll be talking with each of them individually, and maybe change will do them all good. Mystique agrees, knowing change is a very good idea, knowing a mutant they should consider. Talking over Eric and Charles and telling them that the time for change is right now. She calls forth her candidate, and Destiny joins them in the council room, as Mystique remembers Destiny's words of bringing her back, and if the mutants cannot or will not, then she is to burn the place to the ground. Destiny takes her seat as Mystique wonders if they should all vote for their new member.